In the previous study, we began our look into the story of Legion, found in the synoptic Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. We left off where Jesus cast the demons into the herd of swine that were nearby. Here's a portion from the Gospel of Mark. And he cried out with a loud voice and said, "What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I implore you by God that you do not torment me." For he said to him, "Come out of the man, unclean spirit." Then he asked him, "What is your name?" And he answered, saying, "My name is Legion, for we are many." Also he begged him earnestly that he would not send them out of the country. Now a large herd of swine was feeding there near the mountains. So all the demons begged him, saying, "Send us to the swine that we may enter them." And at once Jesus gave them permission. Then the unclean spirits went out and entered the swine. There were about 2,000. And the herd ran violently down the steep place into the sea and drowned in the sea. I think all of us are at least somewhat familiar with those who are said to have multiple personalities. In modern medicine and psychiatry today, it is now known as Dissociative Identity Disorder. Gemini tells us the following. The name was changed in 1994 to reflect a crucial medical understanding. A person with this condition doesn't actually have completely different, fully formed people living inside them. Instead, it is a fragmentation of a single identity. The mind has splintered into distinct parts that don't communicate or connect smoothly with each other. Good information, which we'll come back to in a moment. First, consider what we read in Mark 5. Jesus addresses an unclean spirit, singular, and then asks, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion, for we are many." We'll then see the words "them" followed by all the demons, and us, and again, we, then unclean spirits, plural, and we're told very specifically that there were about 2,000. So one must ask, what happens to these demons once they enter the swine and the swine drown in the sea? Well, here's my thinking. They're gone, forever, never to return. Since they are not fallen angels, they do not continue to roam the earth looking for humans to jump in, as we have seen and heard in so many stories and movies. Also remember what we considered in the previous study. To the Jews, when the local people saw a herd of 2,000 pigs rushing down a steep bank to drown in the Sea of Galilee, a Jewish observer wouldn't just see a financial loss for the local Gentile farmers. They would see a massive, dramatic purging of spiritual defilement from the region. Perhaps this is part of the message in this story. So here's my theory. Since demons are created by our own minds and spirits, they cannot exist outside of us, and certainly not in a different species. Perhaps Jesus knew this and so gave them permission, knowing fully well that their destruction would quickly follow once they sought to enter the pigs. And it's worth mentioning that what is destroyed is not a person or angel, but an abstract entity consisting of lies and the misdirected love and energy that sustains them. Think about a lie, an untruth. What gives it life, existence, the ability to survive? How does any idea that is clearly dark, evil, and unacceptable catch on in others' minds and hearts and lead to a collective of hundreds, thousands, and even millions to become a unified force of prejudice and destruction? And what happens when a lie is faced with the absolute truth? When any of us wake up to a lie in our own heart and mind, where does it go once we truly realize that it is a lie? Does it go anywhere, or does it just simply fade away? Now, let's bring this thinking to the idea of the old self and new self. We're told that our old self is crucified with Christ in order that the body of sin might be brought to nothing. Body of sin brought to nothing? Let's consider this. Strong's defines body as the body, as a sound whole, used in a very wide application, literal or figurative, derived from the root meaning to save, that is, deliver or protect, literal or figurative. It's found 142 times in the King James New Testament, not only used in reference to an individual and literal physical body, but in a corporate and spiritual and psychological sense as well, as in the body of Christ. An individual body is made up of many parts, but all the parts are just one body. So in Legion, we have the one that is many, or the many that is one. That said, I believe our explanation of DID from Gemini is accurate. A person with this condition doesn't actually have completely different, fully formed people living inside them. Instead, it is a fragmentation of a single identity. The mind has splintered into distinct parts that don't communicate or connect smoothly with each other. Why is the word body historically rooted in a concept meaning to save, deliver, or protect? Ephesians 5:29 notes that no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it. This suggests a natural human desire to preserve and protect our bodies, whether physically, psychologically, or spiritually, as a sound, cohesive whole. In contrast, the story of Legion represents the exact opposite of this instinct, depicting a total breakdown and destruction of the self. I then think of the woman Babylon in Revelation, also indicative of one body but many members. In Revelation 14:8, she's called that great city, denoting a collective, thereby showing how it is that she makes all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. The simple truth is, all collectives begin with an individual, and as the collective grows, so does their power and influence. In our definition of DID in Gemini, we're given a key in the phrase, fragmentation of a single identity. What did Jesus ask Legion? What is your name? Your identity? How do you identify? Gemini gives us the following. At its core, identity is the umbrella term for the qualities, beliefs, personality traits, looks, and expressions that make a person or group who they are. It is the answer to the fundamental question, who am I? Because identity is multifaceted, it is best understood through a few different lenses: psychological, social and/or cultural, and philosophical. Do you see it? Identity is multifaceted, consisting of many sides, many aspects or characteristics, as it were. And when these parts don't communicate or connect smoothly with each other, you have a legion, a bed of confusion that is sad and frightful, often leading to violence. Is it simply coincidence that Babylon means confusion? Scattered thoughts. Ever tell someone, I can't think straight right now? When we're confused, we can't connect A to B or B to C. We can't make sense of things. No wonder we're told that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. When those in the nearby city and country came to see what happened to the pigs, we're told that they saw the one who had been demon-possessed and had the legion sitting and clothed and in his right mind. Right mind. Sound mind. We have a match. Let's come back to the following. Knowing this, that our old self was crucified, that's past tense, my friends, was crucified with him, in order that our body of sin might be done away with, so that we would no longer be slaves to sin. Legion, one identity, fragmented. One body of sin, referred to as the old self. Is this body of sin the identity we see as legion? Fragmented, confused, tormented, hopeless, and lost? It appears that way, for just how disconnected or confused do we need to be before it's considered a problem? Body of sin. What is sin? First and foremost, an offense. And from where do offenses arise? Is it not from within our own heart and mind? Is this not what we see in the temptation story in Genesis 3? Has God indeed said, "You will not surely die, your eyes will be opened, you will be like God"? Doesn't this agree with James' declaration in James 1:13 through 16? Body of sin, not a person, but yet an entity called the old self. How can this be? Because the old self is identity, who we think we are, composed of a structure of information, complete with the biases and prejudices of our caretakers and society, given us from the moment we enter this earthly plane. When we begin to truly grasp this, we better understand the following. But sin, seizing an opportunity through the commandment, produced in me all kinds of covetousness. Apart from the law, sin lies dead. I was once alive apart from the law, but when the commandment came, sin came alive, and I died. The very commandment that promised life proved to be death to me. For sin, seizing an opportunity through the commandment, deceived me, and through it killed me. What does Paul say seizes an opportunity through the commandment and produces covetousness, deception, and death? Sin. Offenses. Thinking that separates us from God and others because of those pesky little biases and prejudices that like to roost between the branches of our mental formations. Does this mean that every random thought is a problem? Not at all. Identity is not just a simple thought, but a structure of belief in various concepts residing in our heart and mind. And since they define our identity, we can call them identifiers and, even better, labels. Let's pick up from here in the next study.